Hemp.
Good evening and welcome once again to LSTV right here on Words and Music. Couple quick announcements very quickly. If you're watching us on one of the other networks, the only chat room that I can possibly monitor is at LSTVmedia.com, LSTVmedia.com. Our Roku viewers, welcome to us. Again, if you want to correspond with us and chat, go over to our website. But we welcome all of our viewers on Roku. Tonight we're going to have Mr. Dannion Brinkley Unplugged. We're going to be covering a bunch of topics. The war concerning water. What's that all about? Afghanistan and Syria and Obama's many crimes. Congress. There's no end to it. And then we're going to talk about the spiritual end of what's going on and how we're going to achieve balance. And first of all, Dannion is the author, an international best-selling author of the New York Times best-selling and international, Saved by the Light, At Peace in the Light, Secrets of the Light. We're going to go right in to a quick clip about Dannion and his mission and what he does at the VA.
Of the people who experience near death, 80% are like Dannion, saying they return from the light with a higher purpose.
Yeah, I know I was there.
Right at the gate.
Yeah, because my brother was out there waving at me. He wanted me to come on over.
Dannion's mission? To make sure no one dies alone. When he got his second chance, he started a nonprofit organization called Compassion in Action.
Maybe that we're your family.
Yeah, you are.
Trained volunteers of Compassion in Action dedicate their time as the time for dying veterans slowly runs out. Around the VA, they're considered real-life angels, and without them, terminal servicemen would otherwise die alone.
They pay attention not only to people's social needs and emotional needs, but also their spiritual needs, as well as their needs for comfort at the end of their life.
Lieutenant James Russell, a Tuskegee Airman, has many memories to share, but few people to share them with.
When I was in ICU, and my friend came up and held my hand, I didn't understand it for the first 2 hours. Then who is she? Who is she?
Not all Compassion in Action volunteers have had a near-death experience of their own. What the 4,000 national volunteers do have in common? Respect for final moments and an outstretched hand to hold as someone is about to take their first step into the other side.
I'll say, it's okay, it's okay. I'm here to help you on this side. There will be others on the other side to assist you. So don't be afraid and move into the light.
Now, we just passed Memorial Day, and I want to go into another video to give people better understanding about what the Twilight Brigade does. And I want to show a video of you there presenting an award to one of the Tuskegee Airmen.
Hello, my name is Dannion Brinkley. I'm the chairman of the board and co-founder of the Twilight Brigade, a non-profit organization dedicated to the fact that no veteran need die alone. Today I would like to talk to you about the Tuskegee Airmen and World War II heroes, the true beginners of the civil rights movement in the United States. This is the 150th anniversary of the Civil War. This is the 10th anniversary of the longest war this country has ever fought. And this is 11-11-11, an event that comes once every 100 years, Armistice Day or Veterans Day. What better time to talk about American heroes? We want to honor those Tuskegee Airmen, the first African-American fighter pilots, the first African-American bomber group, the first African-American mechanics, both male and female, airplane servicers, and the true leaders that created a movement that was so great and so heroic that it caused President Truman to desegregate the armed services. As we honor Martin Luther King Jr. with a carving and a monument on the Washington Mall, who were these great fighters? Who were these heroes? So heroic that in 2007 they were given the Congressional Gold Medal, the second highest honor that a nation could give anybody. And what you're about to see is two of these veterans unable to make the journey to Washington receive their medal. Look at their faces. Look at who they are.
Harold Young. Look, we are all leaving now. We're saying goodbye every week. Every month, every year, we're saying goodbye. But it's been a great, great trip for all of us.
They went to war to fight for a country that did not always stand up for them.
Thanks everybody for coming. If we don't keep this thought alive in our hearts and our minds, we lose a lot about who we really are. I'm a co-founder of the Twilight Brigade. It's a end-of-life care volunteer program for our veterans. We just deal with the issues of closure and families and those things that really matter toward the end. If you look around, these are the people who make rounds every single day, that check on our guys, that are in a place in their lives where a lot of decisions have to be made and a lot of things have to be appreciated. So in one of these fancy rigged beds with the entire VA, I swear to you before God, everybody, if you ever want to be proud of a VA, be proud of this one, and an outsider watching every person from the director's office, the chief of medicine, all the way down, made it happen where he could be upstairs. I'd like to thank you from the bottom of my heart for showing up, because we who are the Twilight Brigaders, we know what this means to them. And I am so very proud of my Twilight Brigaders because they come to make sure everybody's okay. Walter Foreman is a terrific man. When he first came to the VA, he was up making sure everybody was taken care of, got to their therapy, took their medicine, and you knew it was that good Tuskegee Airmen training that kept him doing that. Walter wanted to come here and make sure that Sheila, his beloved, can give him this award, the Congressional Medal of Honor, the second highest honor you can receive in the United States of America.
The Twilight Brigade is dedicated to No Vet Need Die Alone. The palliative and end-of-life care program in the VA is magnificent, but we need your support and we need your help. What you have just seen is heroes, people who have done their time, people who have served and come back and lived in America being honored. If you were not moved by this, then you need to be. And if you were moved, there are 3 ways that you can come and be called to action. Number 1, become a volunteer or start a Twilight Brigade chapter in your hometown or in your area. Number 2, donate. Donate by mail, by PayPal, or by texting. Number 3, most people at the stage where you see these veterans, the 73 to 80,000 passing, they need your prayers. It is spiritual and emotional support that they need as much as anything else. So in your prayers and in your donations and in your volunteerism, let the veteran be first. They were there for us when we needed them. We need to be there for them. now that they need us.
Dannion, yesterday I was honored. You know, I do the Feathered Friends every year. It's run by retired veterans, largest rescue in America. And there was guys there from Fort Gordon who, on their days off, getting no benefits from the military, are out there volunteering. And it forward is really awesome.
It's seeing the spiritual law at work. Everybody thinks everything's got to be based on some kind of faith in something. You base stuff on what you believe in, and there are spiritual laws equal to the laws of the atmosphere and all of that. I learned them all being dead, Mel, but there are still those systems, and when you're serving and creating and protecting life, a parrot which will live longer than you, then there is a connective to honor and integrity and humanity and the things that distinguish the spiritual identity from all the other identities that we have. So it's like me. You take a sense of pride because I can bring joy into someone who risked their lives so that I could sit here and have this conversation with you and talk to these people. They risked their lives, and the Twilight Brigade was designed based on that. I always said, and you know this, that the battle for the souls of men would be fought in health care. Okay, and then Catherine, this is 1976. Yeah. Then Catherine came along and changed it from from the battle for the souls of men would be fought in health care to the battle for the souls of humanity would be fought in health care.
Well, we're seeing that right now with Obamacare and the socialized medicine, and what we says an awful lot. And if it wasn't for volunteers, and most people don't realize that 1/3 of the VA staff is volunteer, and thankfully for people like you and other organizations and people like Terry Vader that help support this, and we'll talk about him a little later in the show, we are helping to make a difference and helping to create awareness of what's going on. How can the guy on the street help make a difference with the VA and our veterans?
It's very easy. What you have to do is take a look at what you you teach best what you most need to learn. Okay, you teach best what you most need to learn, and you take a good look at your life and realize, what do you appreciate and have gratitude for? Okay, what are you thankful for? Well, for me, I'm a veteran myself. My dad, my brother, we're all veterans. And so when you look at what you can be of service to help a veteran, they have wives that are widows. We're losing them at a rate that in 20 years, no, in 2020, there was 88 left. In 2020,
all right, I have a little problem with my feedback monitor down here, and so hopefully... You there, sir?
I'm here.
Okay, I got you back. Okay, I'd lost you for a second.
I'm right here, Mel.
All right. But you're right. Being there and making that difference, you're the difference God makes, is what we say each Sunday when we close. Now, we're going to talk about a number of different topics tonight while we have you here. Right now, they're dumping waste into the ocean, and the radiation is increasing on the West Coast. Alex Jones has been talking considerably about that. Have you got any input you want to put on that before we take a quick look at what he has to say?
Well, you know what, Mel? Alex is a little radical. I like Alex Jones, but he's too radical. I mean, he has to calm all that down and support everything with ways that we can do something about it instead of scare the crap out of everybody. But when you look at Fukushima, we live at the Savannah Riverside. And I live in Las Vegas, but in South Carolina, where we live, you got 50 nuclear scientists that you can go and ask these questions because they're your neighbors. So when you hear that Fukushima crap, you know it's not true because you got a guy that's a PhD in 3 or 4 areas of nuclear physics. I know 4 myself that you can ask what's happening. So is there radiation? Yes. if they were frightened to not tell us all this, because they had some super meltdown, something never calculated. It means it would have to be a meltdown where it started moving into the earth, or they wouldn't have kept pumping water and doing all that stuff. But how could it not be happening based on just basic science?
Well, that's it. And according to our resident science, Rebecca, there was a fire there at Reactor 4 a couple of weeks ago, and at that point, that's when they started dumping into the ocean. Let's take a quick look at what Alex Jones has to say about why the radiation is increasing on the West Coast.
In January of this year, I sent Jakari Jackson and other Infowars.com reporters to the west coast of the United States to investigate the reports of massive radiation spikes, 10 times in some cases what the background radiation is supposed to be. Professional groups, private organizations, and citizens alike were going out with their field meters and Geiger counters and picking up huge spikes in San Francisco, Los Angeles, but as far north as Seattle. Jakari and our reporters not only confirmed increased radiation, they found it all over the western coastline.
Why is this not a national news story? Why is this not an international news story that these power plants are registering lower radiation than what is being found in Half Moon Bay?
We had witnessed a coordinated cover-up by Tokyo Electric and the Japanese government of the cancers and deaths and thyroid ailments plaguing Japan in the first 3 years after the disaster. So the question was, is there a cover-up going on in the United States and North America as a whole? Turns out the EPA, within just a few months of the Fukushima disaster, with the trade winds and currents coming right into the United States, had indeed raised the levels of what they claimed was safe for the population. In some cases, more than 1,000 times what they had previously claimed was safe. So we continued to investigate and noticed that just a few months after Fukushima, tuna had been caught off the coast of the United States with higher levels of radiation. Buried in reports that got little or no attention, we began to discover massive deformities in whales and other sea life, seal die-offs, starfish die-offs, massive fish die-offs. And when our reporters went and tested the fish that were being caught off the coast of California, the radiation levels spiked dramatically.
It's almost double.
There's a reason I sent my reporters to the West Coast. It's to draw attention to the fact that the nuclear industries in the United States and worldwide are out of control. More than 75% of reactors in North America are currently leaking. In the past, every one of these leaks would have been a huge issue. Now, it's as if radiation is good for us. In fact, Ann Coulter and others have come out and said that we should be thankful for the radiation. The Japanese should be thankful because, after all, it's good for them.
Radiation in excess of what the government says are the minimum amounts you should be exposed to are actually good for you and reduce cases of cancer.
Tell that to all the valiant rescue workers who tried to secure the damaged plant who've now succumbed from radiation sickness and died. And tell that to the sailors and crew of the USS Ronald Reagan, many of which are dead and dying now from radiation poisoning, and the VA will not give them any care and basically puts them on a death panel list to wait and die.
Our sources tell us many were placed on a secret list designed by VA managers to hide the fact veterans were waiting months to see a doctor.
Bottom line, it is important that we draw attention to the fact that this industry is out of control, and we also draw attention to the fact that the federal government itself is ordering millions and millions of dosages of potassium iodide for federal workers while telling the general population that, oh, you don't need to have that unless you live right next door to a nuclear power plant.
They're acting like they're preparing for some sort of nuclear emergency right now, because we now know that the Department of Health and Human Services, for example, they just ordered an unprecedented 14 million doses of potassium iodide, which, you know, protects the body in the event of radioactive poisoning. So the federal government, they are already acting as if there's been a severe nuclear accident. Does that concern you as much as it does me?
Oh, yes, it concerns me not only as a journalist, but as a just general citizen.
The truth is, radiation is an invisible poison that's all around us, and the levels of it are going up. It was in my research to find ways to try to shield my family or mitigate the dangers of increased radiation that I discovered that iodine was a key component and that the government was hoarding it. But the type of iodine they're hoarding is something you only take during a huge disaster, not something that you take on a daily basis that from the research helps your glands and body overall to be healthier. That's why we developed with Dr. Edward Group Survival Shield, a proprietary new form of nascent iodine. Survival Shield has been incredibly popular because of the results people have gotten, but also because it's more palatable and easier for children to take. It's not as harsh as some of the other iodines that are out there. We innovated with Survival Shield Nascent Iodine, and it's still available and is excellent. But we are now very excited to introduce X2. There is no other iodine anywhere near this. The other so-called nascent iodines are black and turn black on paper. The Survival Shield Nascent Iodine turns electric blue purple because it's from the pure crystal. You can literally see these ancient crystals seething with the iodine. If you think Survival Shield was powerful, X2 is the next level. Take the InfoWars Challenge. Regardless, you're getting high quality iodine that on record the government admits everyone needs. It's essential, and you're supporting the very tip of the spear in revolutionary pro-liberty media. X2 from InfoWarsLife.com or call toll-free 888-253-3139. There's no other iodine like it on Earth.
Dan, I hate to tell them, but iodine is not going to save them.
Well, but you know what? It has a lot to do with this. I said in Saved by the Light that there would be a second nuclear accident like Wormwood or Chernobyl. Mm-hmm. And when I discovered this, because I started looking for those answers, Mel, because when you know you've been through this with me for 30 years, I have to find the answer to what I see as one of the boxes of knowledge and how I calculate what to do in my life to fulfill the two things, spiritualistic capitalism and putting sinners on the earth.
Right.
That's all I ever said was the two things I was responsible for. And I said I was responsible for it in a book that I wrote with Paul Perry 20 years ago. So if 20 years ago to today someone wanted to see if I was doing spiritualistic capitalism or I was fulfilling the sinner prophecy, then that would be a measure of why I do what I do. It's that I'm smart. When you see your panoramic life review, Mel, I don't care what people think. And you get sent back with a mission, you must achieve that mission. But in order that I would have done this based on being dead, I should have done a great job of it. And with the people, the help of the people like you, and all this extended family, the Twilight Brigade, that helped create the opportunity to take a stand in what matters. A nation's greatness is judged by the greatness of how it serves its veterans. And when we have Memorial Day and we have the 70th anniversary of D-Day, and then we have the Veterans Affairs issues, that's Hey America. You better take a really good look at yourself and what your values are. Because when we can let this happen, then we've gone crazy, number one. And then number two, we create a whole way to transform healthcare. The Affordable Health Care Act, how does what we're watching in the VA and what we're representing honoring our veterans, what does that single point tell us about where the nation is? And where is that single point we can have the greatest impact based on veterans and what they really mean? And when you watch those videos, we've created a platform through the Twilight Brigade that you can find that peace, that place in peace, but you're willing to face the greatest things to reduce your own fear of death so you can help people that you love. That's part of the changing of the mindset of volunteering, just like those guys that satisfy themselves by serving something that they are protecting, and their efforts go to extend a life and put that honor and integrity in their life.
There you go. I agree with you.
That's the truth.
Yeah, and that's it. You know, Bob, a friend of mine that I was talking to yesterday, he was in line. I don't remember if it was McDonald's, and there was a soldier there with his little girl, and he had just got back from Afghanistan, and the guy was in the next line, and his bill was like $7 and something, and Bob reached over with his card and handed it to the clerk, and he says, "Run it on this one, please." And he looked over at him and said, "Thank you." And I think our veterans are ignored too often. They give a lot. They put through some horrendous circumstance.
Hey, Mel.
Yes.
They caught the damn VA killing them. Okay, if you're going to look at affordable health care, and you're going to look at the model in the VA, okay, and this is where everybody that was born as a baby boomer between 1945 and 1967, this is where you are today.
That's it.
Okay, end of story, you know, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so what do we as spiritual beings do about it? What is that option of what we're going to do about it now that we know it? That's where the keys come in. So when we start to lock in on that kind of stuff and really think about it, we must engage where the VA is. We must engage, because if we don't engage now in getting the answers to the questions, the system will eliminate the Veterans Administration in 7 to 10 years. They'll eliminate it. And then they will have positioned the Canadian model in healthcare, the British model and the Canadian model, into the American model. Okay, they're already doing that into the VAs, and once they can find enough problems with the VA, they will eliminate it and give a special kind of privilege to a veteran in the system, like he becomes an instant Medicare patient.
Right.
Okay, and then that's it. It's over. We are socialized medicine. So there's not much we can do about it, that except to put into place to ask those questions. To ask those questions. Ask your congressman and your senator and run a campaign. It's a damned election year, and you ask them those questions. I'm asking mine.
There you go.
All right, I'd like everybody to kind of join in with us as we come close together. Get close with your mate as we all say, it's all right. Come on. It's all right. Say it's all right. It's all right. It's all right. Have a good time, 'cause it's all right. Whoa, it's all right. We're gonna move it slow. When lights are low, when you move it slow, it sounds like Mo, and it's all right. Whoa, it's all right. Now listen to the beat. Kind of pat your feet. You got soul, and everybody knows that it's all right. Whoa, it's all right. When you wake up early in the morning, feeling sad like so many of us do, harm a little soul, make life your goal, and surely something's gotta come to you. Then you wanna say it's all right. Tell me it's all right now. It's all right. It's all right. Have a good time, 'cause it's all right. Whoa, it's all right. It's all right. Someday I'll find me a woman who will love and treat me real nice. Then my road's got to go, and my love she would know from morning, noon, and night. Then everybody will say it's all right. It's all right. Say it's all right. It's all right. It's all right. Have a good time, Clap your hands. Now after me, say it's alright. It's alright. Tell me it's alright. It's alright. Say it's alright. It's alright. Say it's alright. It's alright. A little bit of the spiritual hymn of Amen. Come on, you know it.
It's all right. There is a creator out there that's got a grand plan, and I do believe it's all right. So, Curtis Mayfield, I'm with you, brother. We dancing. Dannion, question in the chat room. How do you engage that spirituality in this time of trouble and turmoil with health care and the other issues?
Because first, we all chose to be here, Mel. You know, what people have to realize is you had to be somebody that was a big shot in the spiritual world to even think you could get a chance to come over here. Okay, and that's the bottom line. There's no other thought about it. This is how you got here. And then once you were here, there are obstacles that you create to see. We're now in the battle for our health care. Okay, when it was the battle for the souls of men, when affordable health care went to the Supreme Court, for me, based on the prophecies or the boxes of knowledge, that was the time to engage. Okay, that was the time to make it a political issue, the quality of end of life. I know half the stuff in the VA. I've been in the VA 29 years as a hospice volunteer, Mel. You know this, 29 years, and I've been a hospice volunteer for 36 years. I know what's going on in the VA system because Twilight Brigade and that where it is and what it does, I understand the system because I knew this stuff would occur based on the boxes of knowledge. And so spiritually, we put the Twilight Brigade in place so that it would represent all that we have stood for, this show, what you do, all that we had stood for over this last 29 years.
All right, I want to hit a couple other topics, and then we got a list of questions we're going to go down from viewers in between this. South Carolina just passed the Hemp Act allowing farmers to grow hemp in South Carolina, and this past Monday, Governor signed a legislation allowing for pharmaceutical cannabis oil to be used with epilepsy and several other different types of illnesses. Dannion, a perspective on that?
Absolutely, Mel. This is complementing alternative medical policy. Marijuana or hemp, marijuana is the part you smoke, but hemp has a history that's 7,000 years old. And when you look at where there's 94 or 95 patents or papers written for patents that the National Institute for Health holds or has. Okay, so when you're in a political issue, what you do is, here's what they say, but this is what they know. They know that this product as a fiber and this product as a medicinal using cannabinoids, that's what gets you THC, delta-9 tetrahydrocannabinol is a cannabinoid. Okay, but so are CBDs and so are CBGs, and the set of those categories of cannabinoids. They can fight cancer. They can do all of this stuff, but that's more mystical. But now watch. If you can take 5 acres of land and you can grow trees on it for 20 years, or you could take a ½ acre of land and create the same amount of pulp. If you take 4.7 acres or 5 acres, you plant trees in 20 years, you get X amount of pulp. You can take a ½ acre and 90 days and grow a weed and get the same amount of pulp. So you get down to thinking in a conscious place, would you rather breathe by having trees, or would you rather have a paper cup? So the very moment that this movement catches on in the South, which it's doing its now, because they're going to find out these cannabinoids are effective, and then comes hemp. Hemp is an industrial product that Mercedes are making their dashboards out of, that they're making their inner door panels out of it. The #1 manufacturer or grower of hemp is China, and the #1 consumer of hemp is the United States. What in the hell is wrong with that fact?
There you go. Let's take a quick peek at what our local TV station right here, WJBF, had to say about it.
There's a new South Carolina law tonight that could help more than 100,000 people in the state, all of whom have epilepsy. The new law lets them use cannabis oil to prevent seizures. Robert Kittle explains.
This green liquid is called CBD oil or cannabis oil, and it can greatly reduce or even prevent seizures in people with severe epilepsy. But since it's made from the marijuana plant, it's been illegal in South Carolina. A new law just changed that, allowing doctors to prescribe CBD oil to patients with severe epilepsy and for them to possess it. Senator Tom Davis sponsored the bill after learning about a 6-year-old girl in Charleston who had up to 150 seizures an hour.
But with CBD oil, the anecdotal evidence is, and others have gotten relief where the pharmaceuticals don't provide it. So we're talking about changing some lives in South Carolina, so it's a really great day.
South Carolina families have actually moved to Colorado to get the treatment where it was already legal. This should allow them to move back eventually and others to stay at home.
Actually getting this oil could be a problem for these families, though. Since it's been illegal, it's not available in the state. But that should be changing soon.
The CBD oil is made from a genetically engineered marijuana plant that has more of the CBD oil and almost none of the mind-altering substance in marijuana. The law also sets up a study committee to look at growing it here.
I believe that in the future we may be a place where we can produce this drug so that children in the South, in South Carolina and on the East Coast would be able to come to South Carolina in order to have this kind of treatment.
That could also mean more medical research in the state, but mainly it should mean relief for those with severe epilepsy. In Columbia, Robert Kittle, News Channel 6.
The State Law Enforcement Division will be part of the study committee looking at growing the medical cannabis plants. Clemson, MUSC, the State Medical Association, and the Agriculture Department in South Carolina will take part as well. 22 other states and the District of Columbia allow some kind of medical marijuana and cannabis programs already.
Yeah, yeah, oh yeah, what condition my condition was in.
Dannion Brinkley on Unplugged, and we're discussing what condition our condition is in. All right, Dannion, cannabis oil has a number of medicinal purposes. Where do you see we going with this in legalization, farming, agriculture, and how it's going to benefit America?
Now, it's very easy. If we, down here on the ground, if we look at the aspects of being able to reduce the amount of wood, but to also be able to create companies. I said Mercedes is building the dashboards using hemp and a polymer. And Ford built 2 cars, the Model A and the Model T. He built both of those to run off of hemp oil and hemp gas. And we are in South Carolina in an election year. We are a agrarian textile-based psychology.
That's true.
All right, we have the beach and tourism. and we have factories. We have international factories. Why are we not producing in the United States for these people? And why has hemp has a 7,000-year history in humankind not be looked at for some evil force because somebody said just say no, or somebody couldn't control whatever it was we were doing? This stuff has to come out. And everybody that's listening or whoever hears this, we have to make decisions about how to grow our economy and how to spiritually look at our life in this world that is fast changing into the most wonderful experience we could possibly have, but you got to be ready for it.
I agree, Dan. I agree. All right, I want to hit some world events things that are going on.
Go.
And just a couple of highlights. China has called Facebook and Google pawns of the U.S. spying program, the CIA, and they say that the U.S. will break ties with Russia, and this is going to harm the EU. What is your perspective on that?
Okay, that's all true. It's in our news every day. We know that there's softwares that's been put into place that locks into literally everything everywhere. So we know that Google is Facebook recognition and visual face recognition. Every way they can capture your identity, they're doing that. It's being proven every day here. So when you think about if I was thinking from a Chinese perspective, I would move politically east. Okay, that's where I'd move politically. But when you look at it from an everyday point of view, the euro yesterday went into negative deposits. That means just for you to put your money in their bank, they charge you to hold their money. That's cashless society, Mel. And if they come to America with that, which was a 0.1 operating fee based on your money, that they charge you to have it, then it's in control of the money and the system that's in place. It begins to fulfill that vision about how you would take the computer chip and which is all in Saved by the Life. I wrote about all this stuff 20 years ago. That computer chip would come into play. I thought it would come into play first in healthcare because that's where I figured the battle was based on the prophecies. All right, so I chose the healthcare system to observe how chip implants are being put in place and even medicines that you take so that a pharmaceutical company can make sure you took it and can track its response in your system. If you have a telephone or a computer in your house, that's telemedicine today. So all that stuff was true. So in the EU, I don't believe that Russia will play too big a hand. I think that they'll wait because they'll let America burn itself out based on skirmishes that we're now presently in. So I don't think that the EU's economy is based on the relationship between the rest of the world and Russia.
All right. One time I think I heard you say that where Russia goes, the world will follow?
As Russia goes, so shall go the world. It was emphasized in the in the boxes of knowledge. Right. And all of a sudden, look where Russia's doing. Look what Putin's doing. Look at what they're doing. And what do they have? And this is all for me to look at spiritually, because when they were showing me events, Mel, I was translating into events here in this world, but I wasn't seeing it from that level. Okay, Russia, who we're arguing with, has Snowden, who knows everything about us as an intelligence apparatus.
Sure.
Okay, well, hello, everybody. I mean, hello. Where are we moving against Russia as it decides to break the dollar, which is what it's up to now? Okay, that's why I support North Korea and building relations with Syria. I mean, this is the geopolitical position that we, as spiritual beings, must see the world. And what I like about the Curtis Mayfield point, because I have a story to tell about the greatest thing that's happened in the last 2 weeks. Okay, so when you look at Russia, they would be smart enough to know to keep occupying America, to either print money or to be forced into breaking the dollar as the world currency. Okay, so I don't honestly think that where the U is, they're going to break up anyway or come apart. I don't think that that's going to affect the Russian relationship.
All right, so folks, as I've said, we have literally, with our research staff, Rebecca Sutherland leading, we have literally gone through each of Dannion's predictions in the boxes of knowledge, and they are documented as happened. Dannion, I want to go back to focusing what you are about and people that support the Twilight Brigade. Now, we just did our Memorial Day program here, and I was happy to see that Terry Fator came to L.A. to the Twilight Brigade's offices and came to entertain the troops. You want to tell us a little bit about that, and let's take a look at that clip after that?
Oh, please. But it's wonderful, Mel. There are certain people who appreciate the fact that there are people who are not afraid of death. And then there is a certain group of people that appreciate the fact that that fear is used to alleviate and help veterans find closure in their life. A person, I have like 36 or 37,000 hours at the bedside. I've been with 2,000 people, 2,008 people. So I understand how all of that stuff works and how it operates. And there are entertainers that quietly appreciate that. And Terry's one of them. And so when I said Terry, he asked me, he said, Dan, he says, what do you think I could do to help veterans? I said, anybody can do this. They need to laugh. So we created the Hospitalized Veterans Television Network, and we got Terry's tape running 24 hours a day. And then Terry came over with Winston the puppet, and he did a presentation for two assisted living homes. Not one, Mel, but two. And you should have seen the tears and the joy in the faces of these veterans because somebody gives a crap and they show up. So we have to think, everybody has to think in terms of figuring out a way to find service. Twilight Brigade trainings are fabulous. We do the Twilight Brigade. We train all over the nation. You know that, Mel. And it's a good place to get a grip. But just getting involved with wondering what's wrong with the VA.
There you go.
What is wrong with the VA system if I have to trust the federal government to create a health care program and you are killing my parents? How much am I supposed to trust you in this political year and the fact that 2016 and we will log in that place where the chip and where health care and the system of control is established? The battle for the souls of men was going to be, the battles for the soul of humankind was going to be fought in healthcare. That's where we are. That's absolute proof that what I saw in those boxes and how I interpreted it, sometimes too fast, sometimes too slow, and some parts I never could understand. But how I interpreted it, I did a pretty good job, Mel. I did a pretty good job of it. So when you stop and you look right there, we're positioned in asking these questions as citizens. What does this guy who's running for office, or all the rest of them, what did they think, and what did they think has happened to our VA? That's a platform. What's happened? Because that's the health care I can look forward to, knowing that those guys, based on bonuses and the system of bureaucracy, put itself in place. I've watched it for 29 years now. I mean, I know the game, and I believe if we're smart and we ask questions of our representatives and we ask questions of our candidates and force them to give us answers based on an honest opinion, not propaganda like that last piece, but an honest opinion about where we are, we will make the right decisions because there are spiritual decisions that we're making. They're not conscious survival systems. They're spiritual things. There's about the identity and life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and the kind of place that was this great American dream. And that's what we are trying to hold on to as spiritual beings. And it has to be rebirthed and guarded. But if we want to know about our health care, you ask a congressman, a senator, or a candidate, what happened to the VA? Tell me the truth. What happened?
Let's take a quick look at Terry and we're going to come back and talk more about what's going into VA and how we can make a difference. Here's Terry on KTLA.
Here's what I like, the comedic sensibilities of our stage manager, Jim Sarcone.
Yeah.
Because we knew Terry Fator needed water, but we didn't know that Winston needed water and a straw.
But of course. Oh, yeah, that was nice. Thank you.
It's very thoughtful. All right, so I don't know if this question should be addressed to Terry or to Winston. After you won America's Got Talent, you were suddenly a headliner at the Mirage, but no one knew you were going through some serious struggles. What about that?
You know, yes, very, very serious struggles. Right as soon as I won the show, my marriage collapsed. I had been married for 18 years, and it was just, and so here I was going through some of the darkest times of my life. I was sued by 3 or 4 different people, and it was like all of a sudden, you know, I get my dream, and then all of the money is going in to pay for lawyers to try to fight lawsuits, and about, man, 2 years it took, and I was about ready to give it all up. I was about ready to just say, I can't do this anymore, and then within 6 weeks, everything was done.
And to a large degree, you have your beautiful wife is here with you, and she's on the show with you.
She is,
Did you meet her, like chicken and the egg? How did that all work out?
Yeah, actually, she worked in my show. I hired her to be my assistant. And at the time I was married, and there wasn't even, you know, it wasn't even a possibility. Sure. And then once I was divorced, I'm like thinking, man, this is not going to happen because, I mean, I'm in Las Vegas. I just signed a $100 million deal with the Mirage. You know, how am I ever going to find someone who's not after me for my money? Sure. And luckily, she did want me for my money, and she married me. No, I mean,
Winston's looking back and forth. He's, yeah.
How's his love life going?
Oh, I'm just fine. No, you know, I don't really need anyone. Just my drink.
No, but it was amazing because I did find an amazing woman who really was just wanted a good relationship. You know, she wasn't really interested in all of the fame and the money and all that stuff, and so we've been together now we're coming up on 4 years.
Wow,
so.
Congratulations.
Married, actually.
Let's look at a clip on tape. Maybe you'll get a glimpse of her. Here is Terry's big show at the Mirage. Watch.
Ain't no sunshine when she's gone. There's not warm when she's away. Ain't no sunshine when she's gone. She's always gone too long. Anytime she goes away.
Wow, Terry with Julius there. And I'm not saying that Julius didn't sing that song entirely on his own.
Right.
How impossible is it to sing with one's mouth closed?
You know, it's amazing.
I'll tell you what's more amazing.
What's more amazing?
It's the fact that all these different singers in Terry's show can hit all their notes with someone's hand up their backside.
Pretty
impressive.
That's amazing. I gotta admit. But that's a clip from the DVD. We've just released a new DVD of the show. And what I do is, when I release a DVD or something like that, then the show is completely different at the Mirage. So if you come out to the Mirage and see the show, it's totally different than what you see at the Terry Fator Live in Concert.
Now, Terry Fator Live in Concert at the Terry Fator Theater.
Yes.
See, I think that would be
That's
so
a
cool.
big deal.
So are you, like, responsible for the plushness of the chairs? Are you concerned with the rake of the theater and stuff like that?
No, we just get the money.
Right.
See, Winston is kind of just on it.
Okay.
Winston has this one thing.
How many characters are there altogether?
I have about 8 different characters in the show, and then there's an extra character where I pull somebody out of the audience, and on the DVD I turn them into Dolly Parton, and I actually make a man sing like Dolly Parton from the audience, just a random person. It's never set up. And then on the in the new live show, I get somebody up and turn them into Lady Gaga.
So, there you go.
Yeah.
You're heading out to the VA area in Brentwood today. What's going on over there?
You know, it's Memorial Day. We wanted to go out there. We work a lot with our veterans. I work with a group called the Twilight Brigade who seeks out dying veterans and provides them someone, tries to reconnect them with their families if they're estranged, and tries to give them someone so that they don't have to die by themselves, and that someone is right there at their bedside with them, comforting them as they're in their final hours and days. And, you know, it's just something that we are very, very big on the military. In fact, all the money I make from the DVD and any of my sales of products go to help veterans and wounded warriors and dying veterans. So
It's such a good thing to do. You'll see Terry will be at the VA in Brentwood later this afternoon. Of course, at the Mirage in Vegas. Why not? Shows at 7:30 Monday through Thursday, and it's pretty much all the time, right?
All the time, 44 weeks a year. We have to take some time off to rest the voice, but
I do the show by myself when he's on vacation.
Right. I'd like to see that.
Winston, truth be told, do you prefer it?
Not at all, no. It feels good. having Terry's hand back there.
Oh, come on, that's terrible. I can't believe you just said that.
Wow. Nice to see you both. Thanks for coming, Terry. Good for you.
Terry and Winston,
All right.
thanks, guys.
All right, so
Yeah, oh yeah, what condition my condition was in.
We got Dannion Brinkley Unplugged discussing what condition our condition is in. Dannion, you made prophecy on this
All right,
show.
hold on a minute, Nell.
Sir?
Hold on a minute. I'd like to say this. Terry Fator is a genius, and he's an American hero. I mean, he started out in a tough position, you know, growing up, and he's played for 20 years in fairgrounds and places, and he's taken this voice, which is genius, and he's created this personality and brought himself to show that it's possible to achieve anything if you put yourself in it, and then he gives back. I mean, and he does this from his heart. He gives back. He donates to the Toilet Brigade. He supports the Toilet Brigade. He comes out, and as he sells DVDs, then we get paid. And this is his way of giving back and paying back. It's spiritualistic capitalism at its very best.
Oh, I agree, and I showed a video a few months ago of you and Terry at the Mirage, where he presented the Twilight Gate then with a $10,000 check. And these checks help make trainings free for the volunteers that...
Well, not always free, Mel. There's a fee. I mean, people can get scholarships, okay, because if they're in a hospice or they're dealing with hospice or there's scholarships, but there's a fee. It's like $100 because it's a 3-day training. It starts on Friday. It goes to to Sunday afternoon, and it's intense. But people have to pay because we have to print the manuals. What it does is goes to support the programs. What people do when they go, they support the programs. And in the supporting of the programs, putting the trainings on and putting them all together, putting that information out so people can choose from and look at the best healthcare possibilities, and to be able to trust the person in the system that healthcare is coming from and that advice is coming from. If it's about veterans, there's no one who knows more about what they're going through than a Twilight Brigader as a volunteer. So, you know, it creates a way that when you're spiritually looking at something or supporting something, then your consciousness gets higher. I do what I do, Mel, because it allows me to raise that level of perception in me, because I know it's possible for me and having gratitude and service for what I know and who I am. And that works for every single one of us. Every single one. So Terry Fator's a genius. And you can't tell the difference between Etta James and Garth Brooks. And he'll do 5 voices in between that, and that he cares that much. And his wife, Taylor. You have to do nothing but be looking, seeing at Americans at their best.
Thankfully, there are people like Terry and many others that help work.
And like you.
Well, we've been at it for a while, brother. All right, I want to go, and I've got a list of questions that was submitted to us this week, but I want to start off quickly showing a video clip of you earlier talking about water and your prophecy, and then we're going to look at that, and then we're going to come back and let you update this issue. Here's Dannion about a year and a half ago talking about what he was prophesying concerning the water and what would happen.
When you look at Islam, everybody, there's Shias, Sunnis, and Wahhabis. Okay, and they're arguing among themselves about who is the rightful heir to Muhammad. For a Shia, there are 1.4 or 5 billion Muslims. Okay, 1.45 billion Muslims. Of that 1.4 billion, 200 million are Shia. If a Shia Muslim attacked Israel or Jerusalem and they destroyed the Dome of the Rock, we could all come home, because I'll guarantee you the Sunnis would wipe them from the face of the earth. So when you hear Israel rattling the chains about Iran's going to nuke them, for anybody to think that an Islamic person would destroy the Dome of the Rock in Jerusalem, You are listening to a lunatic talking to you. A lunatic. And that's Israel rattling those chains.
Sure.
So that they can neutralize Iran, and America do it, so they can move into Lebanon because they have no water. The River Jordan is about as wide as my finger. And they cannot desalinate water fast enough, and their water source is the Shima Farms or the Golan Heights. Remember, I'm telling you this because this is one of the things I never could talk about it, because water in America was plentiful. But if you look at this, and I'll stop with this, if you looked at all the water on the earth as a 5-gallon bucket of water, and you looked at all the fresh water on the earth comparably, it would be a coffee cup. And you would look at all the water that's not polluted, that's drinkable, it would be a teaspoon. Now, when you realize that if you lose 12% of your water being 76% water, the moment you lose 12% of your water, you dehydrate, you get inflamed, and you die. And the drinking water is only a teaspoon worth less. Now it makes sense to me that the Great War is over water. And all this rhetoric that you're hearing in the Middle East, it's about oil. But more importantly, it's about water.
Here. All right, we're back, folks. Dannion, the water war. What is the update on this issue, and who will control the water?
Well, we will, Mel. I mean, the whole point of it was everybody keeps thinking it's over oil, but it's not going to be that, because in the boxes of knowledge, these are all those beings of light that's written about and saved by the light. They were showing what the possibilities are. We will be, if you look at the water supply, like in Austin, Texas, what InfoWars, what he was talking about was they're going to go from waste sewage to drinking water. Okay, and everybody knows that no antipsychotic or no sleeping or nerve or depression or antidepressant pills, Paxil, Lexapro, none of those can be taken out of the water. So they're going to circulate water to dummy us down. 60% of the water in China is polluted. 60%. They're getting tankers of water from the Great Lakes and moving those to China, and that's what they're drinking. India is running out of water. We're in the middle of one of those 40-year droughts or 70-year droughts. We're in the middle of, look at Texas, they're running out of water. Look at Nevada. I mean, Lake Mead is down. Look at in the South. Look at where these droughts are in California. Okay, so if we're going through this period and water becomes that important, desalinization becomes that important, it would mean, based on what the boxes of knowledge says, Mel, we're here. We're at this place. Venezuela had to pay its bonds and give away its water rights. And now here comes the control of the water, the same thing they tried to do in Brazil. But in all the earth, the last two large places of fresh water are the Great Lakes and in Uruguay. These are the last great places. So when you start to look at fresh water, no matter what, and you add fracking to it, you start fracking and you put all that chemistry in the water that they lighted on fire, and then because it extracts fuel, we're sacrificing drinking water for fuel in our economy or someone's economy. That's what we have to look at, okay? Because if the boxes of knowledge and those beings are right, then we're at the precipice as spiritual beings. Happens to be in a midterm election, but the precipice of spiritual beings, that we have to look at this stuff from a spiritual point of view, and we have to formulate our opinions from there, because exactly what is happening to water, and you'll see in this next series, now it's called climate change or global warming, okay, but nonetheless, it's still the same deal. Who controls the water will control how and where we'll go for the next 10 or 12 years.
All right, let's go down the list of questions here. Afghanistan, what is really going on over there, and is the USA pulling out?
USA is pulling out, and what's really going on over there is the opium trade, heroin. When we went there to get Osama bin Laden, they produced 65 tons of opium, which then could be refined into heroin. It might be 1.5 tons or 2 tons, maybe 3 tons of heroin. Today, it's 6,570 tons. We have an army there. We had an army in combat. We were looking for some guys, and we were killing some terrorists. But we let the value of heroin and the quantity of heroin right before our very eyes enter the world market. Now, Mel, if that's true, then it's a very easy look to see we're all being made fools of. Okay? And that's a true statement. I never saw that in the box of knowledge, because it means that a perpetual state of war, if we don't shift in our consciousness, a perpetual state of small war will drive the economy of the world. Okay? Because no one with mutual assured defense, like with nuclear weapons, are going to start something as big as we all make out. No one's going to be firing a nuclear weapon. I mean, that's just not going to happen. We watch it North Korea, and Russians becoming friends with North Korea, but that's only so it can surround China. It has nothing to geopolitically have to do with us, except that we now have the Trans-Asian Pact, where we're going to reassess ourselves into the Pacific, one of the president's idiotic foreign policy moves.
Okay, sir, Syria, what is the hitting agenda now for that country?
To break Iran. Okay? To break Iran. Iran has to be broken. In the Middle East, it's called Greater Syria. It's a mindset more than it is the present-day boundaries of what we call Syria, Israel, Jordan, all those present-day boundaries, okay, that we have. Greater Syria extended into Lebanon and all the way literally into the peninsula. And that's what it's called, Greater Syria. So what has happened in Syria? In order to break the Syrians, because they still have an interbanking system, they're not connected to the Federal Reserve and the great global banking system, and neither is Iran. So what you have to do, just like you had to do Iraq, neither was Iraq and neither was Libya. So when you look at those common denominators in it, they have to break Syria to control the Hezbollah, which is now a tremendous fighting force on the blind side of Israel. And they have to be able to stop Iranian supplies and surround Iran, because of Iran getting a nuclear weapon is supposedly some big deal and supposedly scaring us and making us afraid.
Okay. Mr. Obama, from what I understand, there are a number of warrants on him, crimes against humanity, things that he has done in violation of the Constitution. So with the warrants and everything that exists against Obama, why does the US Provost Marshall refuse to arrest him?
Because he's all a part of the system. You know, it's not like everybody said, who is them? We have established a system of fascism, okay? And we create fascism, which is a formal form of government between multinational corporations and countries, and interlocking boards. You take an interlocking board, it sits on 3 or 4 different boards, and they really formulate the overall strategy. So to enact these things that we appear to be, there's President Obama, he's just another fool, Mel. He's just another guy out there who'll become narcissistic and thinks he can break these laws. Nixon did the same thing because they know what the real government is. They understand how the secret shadow government works and operates. So when you look at it, we have to realize we're part of a system that's going to move to systematically control our lives, because we're entering a period of time based on the Mayans when we would reach the highest potential frequency, sometimes up to the 9th level. This is what the Mayans said. So when I look at what they're doing spiritually, Mel, I realize that they know what I know based on the boxes of knowledge and just wandering the world trying to understand spiritually who it was I was and what it was I was supposed to do. They sit right there knowing this, and they have to create all this crap and put 90,000, how in the hell, Melvin, did 90,000 children between 3 and 15 get to the border of the United States, knowing that the access and the blockage points between Mexico and Guatemala and El Salvador, they are brutal. They are brutal when you try to cross into Mexico, and they have a tight border. So how did Salvadorans and Guatemalans and this Central American group from 3 years old to 15 years old, that we captured 90,000 of them, how did they get to the American border? Okay, in this boxes of knowledge, there was this whole thing about that they would be flooding in America, and the flood would be so great by the millions because of what was happening in the economies, you know, the fall of socialism. You know, I go into all that stuff. So what would be happening? And then they put National Guard on the borders. Well, that made that prophecy come true. Now they're flooding over here from 3 years old. How can that happen is the question we have to ask ourselves.
All right, sir. Next question that came in. Central banking. Where is the center for its control today?
Bank of International Settlements.
Okay. That was
it's called the Bank of International Settlements. And there was Basel I, Basel II, and now the implementation of Basel III. All of it is to try to create a one world government, a one world currency. You know, that's what the whole system is to unify how you transact business. We used a dollar to try to create it, but we went crazy and printed all that money. So the whole component of the Bank of International Settlements, which was questionably created during the Nazi rule, during the Nazi occupation, but it decides all banks answer to the Bank of International Settlements, and nothing could happen. Even the scandals of the guys, the LIBOR, which is the measurement of what we pay in interest on our programs, what we pay on interest on our cars, that was manipulated, and they paid billions of dollars in fines to manipulate it. But it couldn't happen without the Bank of International Settlements understanding it. So once again, we're in that conspiracy. We're in that place where we have to take control of our lives or give in. And that'll happen in the next 3 years, Mel. This is the end of it. There are 7 prophecies or 7 things in the boxes of knowledge that are left, and that's all out of 117. Okay? And what I try to do is affect those things in a spiritual way for the right intention, and to try to do the best I can to create, well, just like what you're doing with this show, to spiritually create a perspective so that people can make the right decision based on everything that they seem to be afraid of, was put their own purpose in place based on this is a period of time that in prophecy as well as in Mesoamerican history or spiritual calendars says that we are. And so after 45 years of paying attention to the Maya, and after 38 years from being dead the first time, I draw my confidence and my belief systems in that stuff and its precision.
Okay. We heard about Flight 370 in the news. It was non-stop. Now all of a sudden, no one is talking about Flight 370. What happened to the Malaysian flight, and what's the latest intel?
Okay, I can tell you this. Everything we've heard so far is a lie. It's just a lie. And how you can find that out is go ask a pilot. Go ask any airline pilot that is qualified on a 777-200. It is Boeing's most advanced airplane, Mel. Okay, so whatever they are saying to us, think about these things. Number 1, NORAD. Every airplane in the sky. Number 2, if it changes directions, it comes on 2 more radar. Number 3, it has Rolls-Royce engines. Everybody knows that Rolls-Royce engines talk to each other 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They know where that Rolls-Royce engine is, whether it's sitting in a hangar, or whether it's in the air, or whether it's at Diego Garcia. Rolls-Royce knows where that engine is. Okay? Now, in 1997, it's in a press release. Anybody can Google and look it up. Boeing announced a new anti-hijacking device. that you could take the control of a Boeing airplane remotely from a central place on the ground. They did a big press release on it. So could that plane, a brand new Boeing plane with the most high-tech equipment, could that plane not have this program in it? Okay, and one of the things that it said was it could take the plane to 45,000 feet, cut off the oxygen, and black out whoever is sitting in that cabin. So did the plane turn around? Yes. Does the Rolls-Royce know where it is? Does NORAD know where it is? Do the Indonesians know where it is? Okay, absolutely. The people at Rolls-Royce know today where that motor is, where that engine is. So if it went to 45,000 feet, then my question would be this: was that to kill those people, or was that to render them harmless? Okay, because then you're just disposing of bodies. I mean, this is how they all think. Because there was something on that plane, Mel, and there was something in that cargo hold that made the so-called disappearing impossible act happen.
All right, another quick question. The Pope has just had a meeting with the Arabs, the Muslims, and with the Jews, and have had prayer. According to Bible prophecy, various others, that this is the final Pope. This is the one that will be here doing Armageddon. The question is, of a spiritual nature, how do men assist the heavenly hosts to win the battle for earth?
Okay, by being your own true self. You know, by being you. Who are you? Not what everybody thinks of you. And what are you the most thankful for? Because, Mel, when the Pope, and if you look at the boxes of knowledge in Saved by the Light, the Catholic Church had to reestablish a position in Jerusalem because Jerusalem was the center. Now remember, I wasn't full of Bible prophecy like I am now then. But when you start to look at it, when the Pope went there and said there had to be a Palestinian state, and I said he had to establish a Vatican-like position, a Vatican-like position in Jerusalem. Well, this Pope is doing that. This is that Pope answering what I wrote 20 years ago based on a vision I had from beings of light 38 years ago. Okay, so now when he got the heads of state to come together to pray, anything that comes out of this, Melvin, will be so-called spiritually perceived as divine intervention to settle the issues in the Middle East. And the Pope will regain a place in the site that they now call the Last Supper. This was what Ratzinger worked on. This was what he spent his entire life doing. And I read the Jerusalem Post every single day. Okay, so right now, for us in a spiritual place, that he brought them together for prayer, in his belief in prayer. Now, when that rocks the foundation of a religious concept about divinity, it literally rocks a foundation. It's amazing to me how few people see that the unfoldment of biblical prophecy and the boxes of knowledge, and I don't know about Nostradamus. I don't really grip most of that stuff in Nostradamus, but these things are unfolding before our very eyes today. Who are you spiritually, everybody? And this is what Mel does in this show, and it's about finding that one unique place and getting a series of questions you ask everybody else to see who's where they are, so we can make powerful spiritual improvements in the quality of the understanding of where we are as spiritual beings in this earth plane.
Whew, that sums that up. Now,
hey, but we came to the dance, little brother.
I mean, and we've been doing it for years.
And
all
so
right, now I want to focus.
Hello.
I want to round this program off with a video, and then we'll have some final discussions. I want to show a clip, the Twilight Brigade vision. We must think war unthinkable, and then we'll have our closing thoughts.
First, I want to say hello to Dannion Brinkley. Dannion, come forward, please. For those of you who heard the radio program 2 weeks ago, you heard me interview Dannion Brinkley on the program, the author of Saved by the Light, author of At Peace in the Light, author of The Secrets in the Light, and go to the microphone, and You know, many of our people here, through our One from the Heart ministry, were trained by Dannion to sit at the bedside of individuals and to assist them through his Twilight Brigade, to assist individuals who are making that moment of release. And so Dannion is here today to say hello to us and to talk about that and to give you an invitation as well.
Thank you, Michael. When Michael was speaking today, I didn't know who I wanted to watch the most, Michael or the translators. So could you please give these two people a hand? You listen to Michael's words, and they are so beautiful. But when you watch them being translated, it moves your whole heart. When Michael was talking about incompleteness and planting the seed, I'm a United States Marine. And I decided to plant a seed. In 1997, I created the Twilight Brigade. It's one of the largest end-of-life care volunteer programs for dying veterans in history. With the support of my wife and Sean Murphy and Diane Smith-Finch, or Finch-Smith, it's one of those, and a lot of you Agape people, I've helped bring it into reality. Since Thanksgiving, I've been at the bedside of veterans in transition. Every day, all day. Holiday blues is trouble. So the seed that I decided to plant, and this is in the words of my wife, Catherine, is we must think war unthinkable.
Right.
We must think war unthinkable. Number one. And number two, those guys who served are passing from this, these men and women are passing from this earth at between 75,000 and 110,000 of them a month. They do not know that they were there for us when we needed them, and we must be there for them as they need us. So many of you have come to help me, but I must build a corps, an army of volunteers that sit at this bedside, that help plant that seeds, that war, we must think war unthinkable. And as we're losing so many so fast, I don't have enough volunteers. So with the help of Sean, we created something called NoVetNeedDieAlone.com. I'd like you to go there. It honors Agape equal to the service for what Michael and Ricky and what this entire family says. So when I came in the door, everyone was saying Happy New Year. And the little girl with a box of napkins, she looked up and said, Happy New You. So with the mission, as Michael has done so well today to put together, we must think war unthinkable. And the way that we can do that is be at the bedside of those who don't know they have completed the opportunity for us to hold this spiritual light and hold this spiritual focus, and they are alone. So the last days of their lives, the greatest generation, sit and stare at the walls. Please go to NoVetNeedDieAlone.com. I always need donations, but I need volunteers. I need people to show a massive army and a massive force that war must be thought unthinkable. I appreciate you and I thank you. I love you. I love listening to the radio show. Michael's a great interviewer. And the greatest part about Michael, after 15 million radio shows I've done, is he does his homework and he asks great questions. So please tell everyone to tune in and stream in this radio show. Let it grow larger. And please come help me help them. Thank you and Happy New Year.
That was powerful, Dannion. I've always enjoyed going to Agape, been there a few times with you, and to know that there's so many people at that one church that is volunteering, over 8,000 people there, and know that they're working to make a difference.
Michael is wonderful. Now, Michael's absolutely wonderful, and what he's doing and supporting. And I have a many Twilight Brigaders that come from Agape Church. So I'm really, really proud, Mel. I mean, I realize that from many different points of view, and even from the boxes of knowledge, we're at the end of an era. I don't say the end of time, but we're definitely facing the end of an era. And I am glad that you are brave enough to bring and put this kind of information, because we all chose to be here at this time and to watch this happen. And we must be smart and we must be united, but we must not fear death. We cannot let fear be the driver. That's what terror does. And what it does is it creates a tenseness that keeps you from paying attention to your spiritual self. Don't fall for that trap, everybody. Don't fall for it. Find something to be thankful for, and find something that's as important in the morning when you wake up. Me, I'm a hospice volunteer. I still got to get up and make a living and do everything. That hospice volunteer allows me to have a spiritual sense of purpose in place to achieve the centers, which was the only two things, Melvin. Remember, it had to be spiritualistic capitalism, and then it had to be the center program. Right. Chapter 5, Saved by the Light, the last 3 pages.
That's true.
So everybody pay attention to what the power of prayer does between the Pope and what's happening in the Middle East between Perez and Mahmoud Adin.
All right, Dannion, I want to thank you once again for being here. I want to thank our viewers for tuning in. I want to say this. The first 10 or 12 minutes, we had some sound issues with the show. It'll be on replay shortly, but tomorrow we're going to see if we can clean up those first 10 minutes. But this will be on replay. I want to
Hey, Mel.
Yes, sir.
Could I thank my senior executive producer, Mrs. Catherine Brinkley?
Yes.
I want everybody to know my senior executive producer. I want to thank her. Tell her I love her very much.
Give Miss Cat a hug from me, too.
I will, Mel.
Tell her I said thank you. All right. I appreciate and honor what you do. It has been an honor to work with you for over 35 years and to be able to travel around the country and see the difference that the people in the VA, the volunteers in Twilight Brigade are making in others' lives. And guys, everybody can't be at the bedside, but volunteerism is what America was built on. And that's
TheTwilightBrigade.com, Mel.
Dannion, it's been going up on the screen throughout the show, Dannion.
Thank you.
Your website's being pitched. And so, guys, once again, I'll thank you all for tuning in. We'll be back here next week. We might get lucky, and Dannion might even fly in and be here in the studio. We'll see. And yeah, Dan, thank you again.
Thank you, Mel.
And guys, in closing, like-minded people, you want to know what's going on Facebook, there's a thing called Patriots Defending the Constitution. There you will find useful information, websites, other places that you can find other people to know what is going on in America. In Aiken County, we have a weekly newspaper called The Leader, where we have a voice. I have input in that paper as well as others, and I am proud to be part of such and be able to bring our local people information that they're not finding anywhere else. And guys, I always talk about volunteerism, the Feathered Friends Forever. I've been volunteering there for 10 years. 100% of the proceeds go to take care of God's creatures. It's run by veterans, retired veterans. There are active military that come there and volunteer. And if you're active duty and you have a bird and you're being deployed, they keep your bird there at no charge. And as always, the Twilight Brigade. Go look it up, thetwilightbrigade.com. Dannion Brinkley's website, or if you can't remember that, Dannion.com. It'll take you over there and see what Dannion's doing. See what others are doing to make a difference. There's some really great videos on the website. And our queen of the studio, chief engineer, Dr. Amanda, we thank you for being such gracious and helping us solve all these problems. Guys, go online, check out her book, Strength of Spirit. I'm sure she's posting it up on the website. Thank you, Dr. Amanda. Strength of the Spirit. And download her book. And guys, I really appreciate once again you being here. And as something Dannion said long ago, and I've said it ever since I began, if God couldn't come and there was only you and I are that difference that God makes in that other person's life. Till next week, may you be blessed. Have a wonderful week, and I'll be watching somewhere over that rainbow.
I